I'm Clara and welcome to No Can Do. You don't know what you can do until you try, and today I tried taking a free dresser I got from Craigslist and giving it a makeover, transforming it into my version of a $1,600 dresser from West Elm. If you want to see what I did, how I did it, all the mistakes I made, and what I learned, just keep watching. I got this dresser for free from Craigslist, and I wanted to turn it into something dramatic. So I went to westelm.com and looked for their most expensive dressers. I found one that was around $1,600, and I thought, I am going to transform this. I am going to take a free dresser and do anything that I can to it to make it look high-end and to make a $1,600 dresser for way cheaper. The only problem was I didn't know what to do. It wasn't the exact same kind of body on the dresser. The one that I had some weird kind of beveling and was a completely different design. But I wasn't going to let that stop me. I was determined. I started by removing the hardware from the drawers and noticed a strange hardened glue that seemed to be dripping from the holes on the drawers. I filled all the holes of the drawers with wood filler, and then I started the process of sanding. Sanding is a lesson in patience, I think. You have to start out with a lower grit sandpaper, like 60 or 80, and slowly work your way up in increments of 20 or 40 until you get to 220 or 300 grit sandpaper. I sanded the drawers down so that the wood fill would become even with the rest of the drawers. And then I did a bit of a scuff sand on the rest of the drawers so that the surface would be nice and flat for the paint to adhere to. I wiped back all the sanding dust, and then I got started working on the body of the dresser. First, I needed to remove the strange legs that were on this dresser. As I was doing this, I realized that this dresser was made completely of particle board with a little bit of wood veneer on it. That's always a bit of a disappointment. Working with wood is easier, I think, and a little bit nicer, but I did what I could. I used a chisel to kind of pry off parts of the trim around the bottom that I thought looked kind of like oddly Victorian, and I was going for more of a modern glam look, so I had to get rid of that. This would end up to be a disaster for later, so just keep that in mind. A disaster's coming. I removed the strange beveling on the sides of the dresser that again kind of gave it a Victorian look. I don't know. I started sanding down the raised area, hoping that it was all wood and that I would be able to flatten that out and make it be a nice, soft wood finish. However, that's when I realized the whole thing was particle board, basically, and I wasn't able to do that. Oh, but the drama hadn't even begun. It was back to sanding, and I went over as much of the dresser as I could. It was time to fill the nooks and crannies, bits and pieces, dings and scratches with wood fill. I'm on a quest to find a wood fill that I absolutely love. I can't say that I loved this Minwax stainable wood fill. I also can't say that I love any of the other 4 types of wood fill that I've tried yet, but I'm sure there's a wood fill that I'm gonna fall in love with one day. Then I went through and I made some repairs. There was an area where the wood was splitting apart on the drawers that was actual wood and wasn't just particle board. So I put in some wood glue and I clamped it down. Then I went through and found any other spots that needed repairs, such as this part on the bottom that was coming undone. Time to hydrate and time to paint. I got started with Annie Sloan chalk paint in Athenian black. At first I decided to just go through with a brush and to get the edges of the drawers because I was going to paint this all using a paint sprayer, and it would just be easier to get the edges and small portions of the drawer done first. Once I was finished with the sides, the little edges and nooks and crannies of the drawers, I went ahead and just put a little bit of paint on top of the drawers as well, where I had used wood fill just to kind of give my drawers a chance of having a nice smooth area. Now, I should have used primer, so if you're following these tips at home, just go ahead and prime. The stain was bad on this, and you can see there's like dripping glue still, and then there's area of exposed wood and there's area of stained wood, and it's all particle board, but there's some veneer, and basically it became a disaster later, but I didn't know that yet. I just ran some water through my Wagner Flexio 3000 paint sprayer to make sure that it was super clean, and then I put in my Annie Sloan chalk paint and a little bit of water. You want to put in some water so that you can get it to a consistency that's good for spraying. I always start spraying on either the side or the back of my piece so that if the first couple sprays come out strange, it's not on the very front. I like to spray over the whole piece horizontally and then the same area vertically as well, and call that one coat. That way I just know that I've gotten a really solid coat of paint and I didn't miss any spots. I let the first layer dry and I knew I would need another layer of paint. As you can see from those lighter gray / white patches, I should have primed because it was an uneven surface for the paint to adhere to. Not even uneven, but there was just so many different consistencies of materials there. So then I thought I would go through and add a thick layer of paint just using a brush, and maybe that would help with some of those spots that kept popping through. That didn't fully work, but I thought, no worries, I'll just put on a third coat of paint with the paint sprayer. And so I did. Unfortunately, after a third coat of paint, I was still noticing that there was some wood grain and some stain popping through on the top of the piece. And I was still having issues on the front of the dresser with the areas with the wood fill. So this was a moment of humility. Furniture flipping. So far, I'm learning patience. I'm learning humility. I sprayed this white after having put on 3 or 4 layers of chalk paint that cost $40 for a quart. I sprayed it white with Zinsser Bin shellac primer because I wanted to get the job done right. I have since learned I could have used a clear shellac primer, clear. So I could have just sprayed over the only little spots that were giving me trouble, saved a lot of paint, and been able to paint black on top of that. Or maybe I could have used a black primer as well, but I was taking no chances. I just humbly gave up and gave in to the Zinsser Bin. I was going to take absolutely no chances with measuring the drawers for the hardware. So after I got another layer or 2 of paint on top of my piece, I decided to drill my holes for my hardware. I did this before top coating because I didn't want to have to drill holes through my top coat. So I used the guide that came with the hardware, and I measured everything multiple times. 2, 3, 4 times, because measure twice, cut once. I'm not going to go back and have to wood fill again. I'm not going to have to go back and drill new holes. I'm just going to get it right the first time. And guess what? I did get it right the first time. If I'm learning anything about furniture flipping, I would say that preparation is at least 80% of it. The actual work itself is pretty straightforward, but if you don't prepare correctly in any of your steps, you'll have to go back and redo things, and I really don't want to do that again. I learned a lot on this piece, I've learned a lot on each piece, and I'm okay making mistakes, but I don't want to make the same mistake over and over and over again. I am happy to recommend these TCP tack cloths. They are so great for wiping off dust. They're a little bit sticky or tacky as you may, and so they kind of pick up any dust or dirt that's on the piece. It was time to top coat. I used Minwax water-based polyacrylic and put in a little bit of my Annie Sloan chalk paint in there as well, so that the top coat would be a little bit black, so that I wouldn't have just a creamy layer on top of my black piece. I was pretty happy with how the top coat was going on. I really like spraying it in the sprayer, although I did have a few little globs that came out that honestly looked like snot. Sorry. So I'm not exactly sure what that's about. I would like to do a more in-depth review of the Flexio 3000 paint sprayer from Wagner, and I plan to do that soon. But hey, look at that. 3 coats of top coat on there, and it's looking pretty good. When it came time to attach my hardware, I was pretty excited. I found these long 10-inch gold poles from Amazon, and I think they look great, and I also think they look really similar to the West Elm dresser poles that I'm trying to dupe here. Oh my goodness, so it's looking awesome, but it's time to conquer the legs. Remember how I said there was going to be drama later? Well, I got these awesome gold legs from Amazon, and I thought they'd be perfect to try and get me a little closer to the look that I wanted without having to get a long gold bar. However, I tried putting them on, and there just wasn't a good way for them to attach that would keep the integrity of the piece. And it's more important to me that the piece is actually stable and doesn't fall over than just having it look perfectly like the thing I was trying to dupe. So I didn't want to cut off the legs that were on there because it was just particle board, and the way that it was attached, it was all kind of connected. So I got creative. This piece was given to me with this filing cabinet that's also particle board, and at first I was going to turn that into a nightstand, but I ended up actually salvaging some of the particle board MDF and using that to build my own leg base. Together, my boyfriend and I came up with a plan for how we could saw this and turn it into a leg base. I got some pieces for my leg base. I covered up any cracks with wood fill, I sanded them, and then I spray painted them gold. I connected the pieces to the rest of the dresser using wood glue and clamps. But when I did that, unfortunately, it caused some damage to the legs in terms of the gold spray paint. So then there were some holes and dings in the paint. So then I decided to cover it with wood fill. Okay, before the big reveal, can you please make sure to hit subscribe down below? And if you like this video, hit the like. Thank you so much. So here's a reminder of the $1,600 dresser that they're selling at West Elm. And here's the free dingy piece I got from Craigslist. And here is my finished product. Though it doesn't look exactly the same as the West Elm dresser, how could it? It was a different piece. I am so pleased with the great finish that I got on the dresser. I love the gold pulls and how they really accent the matte black. The feet were the bane of my existence, but I put in enough work on them to get to a point where they were pretty awesome. I listed this piece for $300. I spent about $60 on the chalk paint for this project. I ended up using more than a quart, so each quart's about $40. And that's because I had to prime halfway through, which again, don't make my mistake. Don't do it. $15 on the polyacrylic top coat, $20 on the pulls from Amazon, $10 on other materials like sandpaper, tack cloth, $10 on the primer, and $5 on gold paint. So all in, I'm at $120. And again, the dresser I got for free from Craigslist, so I'm happy about that. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. It feels like it was a bit of a journey. I put in a lot of work, but I also got to see the reward. So as I was editing this video, I made this sale. Someone Venmo'd me $300 and they are picking up this dresser tonight. I'm so happy to have finished this project, to have learned a lot in the process, and I am excited to try more dupes or inspired by projects in the future. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of this flip. Do you think I got close to the West Elm dresser? And definitely let me know if there's any other dupes out there that you think I should try in the future. I would love to. Thanks so much for being here. Again, please make sure to subscribe and I will see you on the next flip.